So I'm going to push this back a little bit. I think, no, I'm going to need my glasses. I don't know, my glasses, my eyesight's blurry now. I think it's all the crying I've been doing. Okay. Rose, are you here? Are you ready to do your morning walk and listen to chapter 3? So basically this book, for those of you who's in the room, could you just put a 1 in the comments so I can see who I'm talking to? Dad, he did too. Okay, Liz is here. Cool. I'm going to give you a little synopsis of the book. Liz, have you read this book before? All right. So this book was written in 1937 by Napoleon Hill. He interviewed thousands of the most wealthy men in America at that time. And these were people like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford of the Ford Motor Company, Dale Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie of Carnegie Hall. He interviewed all of them to find out like what made you rich. And what he found out, interestingly enough, was it didn't have to do with having influential friends or money or education. It had to do with your mindset. So he lists 13 principles in this book in 15 chapters. So I'm doing a chapter a day. And the chapters are about, it takes me about 40 minutes to get through. So people will be in and out. But here's what I tell people when I read the chapter. Trust that spirit is going to let you hear what you need to hear. Okay? So sometimes people feel like, oh, but I'm driving or I'm walking or I'm doing something. That's okay. Have me on in the background, because spirit is going to let you hear what you really need to hear. Now, of course, I'm going to say read the whole book. But for today, thank you, baby. But for today, just allow yourself to listen, do what you got to do, and trust that the messages that are important to you are going to come through to you. All right. So chapter 3 is on faith, visualization of and belief in attainment of desire, the second step towards riches. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translated it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. The emotions of faith, love, and sex are the most powerful of all the major positive emotions. When the three are blended, they have the effect of coloring the vibration of thought in such a way that it instantly reaches the subconscious mind, where it is changed into its spiritual equivalent, the only form that induces a response from infinite intelligence. So what is your takeaway from that paragraph already? That it's okay to have faith, love, and sex in your regular day-to-day life, but when you blend them and combine them, it transmutes to something higher within you. And that higher part of you is what makes the call to infinite intelligence. Okay? Love and faith are psychic, related to the spiritual side of man. Sex is biological and related only to the physical. The mixing or blending of these three emotions has the effect of opening a direct line of communication between the finite thinking mind of man and infinite intelligence. Panta, I just started chapter 3. See? So Panta, I was saying that just have me on in the background doing, going about doing your business or whatever, and trust that spirit's going to bring you the messages you need to hear. Because you might not hear the whole chapter, but you're going to hear what you need to hear. All right? How to develop faith. There comes now a statement which will give a better understanding of the importance the principle of autosuggestion assumes in the transmutation of desire into its physical or monetary equivalent, namely faith. Faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instruction to the subconscious mind through autosuggestion. As an illustration, consider the purpose. Oh, and you guys can chat with each other. I don't mind at all. Okay. Oh, there you go. I am rich. I am rich. I have so much money. That's perfect. As an illustration, consider the purpose for which you are reading this book. The object is naturally to acquire the ability to transmute intangible thought, impulse of desire into the physical counterpart of money. You desire money and you want to create it, right? That's why you're reading the book. By following the instructions laid down in the chapters on autosuggestion and the subconscious mind, you may convince the subconscious mind that you believe you will receive that for which you ask, and it will act upon that belief, which your subconscious mind passes back to you in the form of faith, followed by definite plans for procuring that which you desire. The method by which one develops faith where it does not already exist is extremely difficult to describe. Almost as difficult, in fact, as it would be to describe the color of red to a blind man who has never seen color and has nothing with which to compare what you describe to him. Faith is a state of mind which you may develop at will after you have mastered the 13 principles, because it is a state of mind which develops voluntarily through application and use of the principles. Because remember, we're learning 13 principles in here. You are what you say. Your body and soul will get together as one. Exactly. Saying, I wish I had money. And my daughter kept saying, no, mom, say you have money. Your daughter is smart. Repetition of affirmation of orders to your subconscious mind is the only known method of voluntary development of the emotion of faith. How many of you repeat things like what Vegas is doing? I have money. For me, this week, I've been repeating, I'm going to have a Millie party when I see my family again on Friday, March 19th. I'm going to have a Millie party on March 19th because I'm going to become a diamond millionaire before Sunday. Before Sunday, I'm going to become a diamond millionaire. Like that's what I've been saying. Sometimes, okay, so you tell your mom the same thing, Carib, Liz. And I'm waiting for Rose to finish that thought. Yeah, I like the conversations going on in the background while I read, so you guys can check in with each other. Perhaps the meaning may be made clearer through the following explanation as to the way men sometimes become criminals. When I really want something, yes, that's exactly what they're saying about autosuggestion. What you're doing is you're training your subconscious mind. That's perfect, Rose. Stated in the words of a famous criminologist, when men first come into contact with crime, they hate it. If they remain in contact with crime for a time, they become accustomed to it and endure it. If they remain in contact with it long enough, they finally embrace it and become influenced by it. So think about people who grow up in the hood or the ghetto, right? When they're children, they hate it. And then because they're not moving out of state, they're not moving out of the neighborhood, or because their parents can't, right? They get used to it. And then after you get used to it, then I might as well just embrace it and do it. I wish there was a crackhead, a man or more there for the crackheads or hoes out here. Yeah. There's a lot in Vegas, right? This is the equivalent of saying that any impulse of thought which is repeatedly passed on to the subconscious mind is finally accepted and acted upon the subconscious mind. So that's how they use the crime to explain what we're doing. If we keep repeating it, eventually you become accustomed to it. So like in the beginning, when you're repeating it, you might be like, oh, I don't believe this. I don't really like this. But if you keep doing it, you'll get used to it. But when you grow up in it, it seems normal. Exactly, Island Boy. That's what Rose talks about a lot on his stream, because he's from Brooklyn, New York. So he talks about, you know, how his childhood has influenced him. In connection with this, consider again the statement, all thoughts which have been emotionalized, given feeling, and mixed with faith begin immediately to translate themselves into their physical equivalent. They just gave us the secret to making riches. Let me repeat that for everybody. If you have a thought and you emotionalize that thought, you give feeling to that thought, and you add faith to it, that is the secret to manifesting. So let me show you how you do that. I have a thought. I'm going to use this exactly because we're talking. I keep reiterating it. I'm going to become a diamond millionaire before Sunday. I am. So that's the thought. Now I have to emotionalize it. wow, it's going to feel so good to get this goal accomplished. I feel proud of the fact that I got 1,000,000 diamonds without twerking or taking my clothes off. I feel good that I got 1,000,000 diamonds by helping people, by providing a safe space for people to come to and talk and meet their friends. That feels good to me. So that's the emotionalizing of it, right? And then you got to mix it with fate. I do have faith that's going to happen because look, we're already at 920. We're literally 80,000 diamonds away, 80,000 diamonds away from becoming a millionaire. So it's going to happen. Cuban Black, good morning, sir. Welcome back. Welcome. Right? The emotion or feeling portion of thoughts are the factors which give thoughts vitality, life, and action. The emotions of faith, love, and sex, when mixed with any thought impulse, gives it greater action than any of these emotions can do singly. How many of you know about sex magic? Do you guys know about sex magic? It's not as bad as it sounds. Sometimes people think, oh, you're a witch, you're voodoo. Right, Cuban Black. Okay, I see Cuban, Island. So I do sex magic. Yeah, so sex magic is you do it with someone that you love or you care about. Panta, thank you, thank you. You're helping me raise my numbers. 921, let's go. So sex magic is what you do with, oh, and YouTube, you're learning a lot more than just what this chapter is. So sex magic is what you do when you find someone that you love, you're in love with, or that you like. Yeah, I did, Rose. I totally did. And basically, when you orgasm, you can either say out loud or in your mind your manifestations, what you intend. So I don't remember if I did this with you in particular. I don't know if I remember if I told you what to do, Rose, but I can't remember if I told you when at the point of climax, I said, think about all the good things you want or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah. Yeah. It's called Babyface Mosley. Good morning and welcome to my room. So sex magic is about using the power of the orgasm to create manifestations in your life. Okay. So you get with somebody that you really care about or you really love. And then at the point of orgasm, you either say out loud or you manifest in your mind the things that you want to manifest. So like I would, if I'm having sex with my boyfriend, I would say to him, when he's climaxing, I would say to him, I wish you all the best things in life. Or I gift my orgasm to you to create all the things you desire in your life. If I cry or have any kind of outer body experience, I'm totally breaking up with him. So yeah, Babyface Mosley, I own a metaphysical center. So I do meditation, tarot card readings and stuff like that. But right now we're reading chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich. So it's like how to change your mindset from a scarcity mindset to a wealth mindset. So not only thought impulses which have been mixed with fate, but those which have been mixed with any of the positive emotions or any of negative emotions may influence the subconscious mind. Think about that for a second. How many times have you had a one-night stand and you had negative emotions with that person? How did that affect your life afterwards? I don't love anyone to. No, you don't have to, like, preferably you want somebody that you're in love with, but if you have somebody that you guys get along well, you have a good connection, 1,009. What's 1,009? Yeah, good energy. You want to have your good thoughts on it. From this statement, you will understand that the subconscious mind will translate into its physical equivalent a thought impulse of a negative or destructive nature just as readily as it will act upon thought impulses of a positive nature. This accounts for the strange phenomenon which so many millions of people experience, referred to as misfortune or bad luck. Okay? There are millions of people who believe themselves doomed to poverty. So if you believe yourself doomed to poverty, what's going to happen? You're going to be doomed to poverty. They believe they have no control over their fortunes. They are the creators of their own misfortunes because of this negative belief, which is picked up by the subconscious mind and then translated into the physical. This is an appropriate place at which to suggest again that you may benefit by passing on to your subconscious mind any desire which you wish translated into its physical or monetary equivalent, in a state of expectancy or belief that the transmutation will take place. You have to have faith that it's going to take place, right? There is nothing to hinder you from deceiving your subconscious mind when giving it instructions through autosuggestion, as I deceived my son's subconscious mind. So for those of you that are new, in the last chapter, the author of this book, he interviewed Napoleon Hill, interviewed the most influential men in America in 1937, the wealthiest men. We're talking Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, of Ford Motors, to find out their secrets to creating wealth. And he talked about his own, he used the principles he learned from them on his son. His son was born without ears, so he was going to be deaf and mute. But he used the principles in the book, and the son had perfect hearing when he grew up. So that's why he was talking about his son. To make this deceit, when he lied to his son, more realistic, conduct yourself just as you would if you were already in possession of the material thing which you are demanding. So, using me as an example, just to make this understandable, I am nearly at 1 million diamonds, which is I'm so grateful and humbled by that. So I have to already believe that I have the 1 million diamonds. You see what I'm saying? I lied to her all the time. I do that too with my kids, but in a good way, to get them to think things in a good way. All right. So you have to act like you already are in possession of the thing that you want. The subconscious mind will transmute into its physical equivalent by the most direct and practical media available any order which is given to it in a state of belief or faith that the order will be carried out. Surely enough has been stated to give a starting point from which you, through experiment and practice, acquire the ability to mix faith with any order given to the subconscious mind. Perfection comes through practice. So what she can do, what she's capable of. Exactly. I do the same thing with my kids. That's good, Vegas. If it be true that one may become a criminal by association with crime, it is a known fact. It is equally true that one may develop faith by voluntarily suggesting to the subconscious mind that one has faith. The mind comes finally to take on the nature of the influences which dominate it. Understand this truth, and you will know why it is essential for you to encourage positive emotions as dominating forces of your mind and discourage or eliminate negative emotions. This is why it's so important you choose who you hang out with. Because if I'm around people who are always complaining, always ungrateful, always wanting more, needing more in life, that can affect my thought processes. You understand? So I like to surround myself with peaceful people, happy people. Of course, we all want more in life, but you got to be happy where you are, right? It's important, very important. I can't stress this enough. I am teaching. I got my teacher glasses on. A medical student that is so hungry for everything. There's no stopping her. The only thing I can do is have her back. Yeah, and the thing is she's going to crash and burn because I was that student. Oh, I love that. Rose said, don't hang around people who have a problem for every man. That's chills. I'm going to give spirit fingers for that. That's chills, man. Because I know people like that. Damn. Evaluate and don't just go so hungry. You know, unfortunately for her, Vegas, she's going to learn that the hard way. Because I was that girl. I was that A student, perfectionist, got to get everything done, yeah, she going to have to learn it. I had to learn it several times before I finally let go. A mind dominated by positive emotions become a favorable abode for the state of mind known as faith. A mind so dominated may at will give the subconscious mind instructions, which it will accept and act upon immediately. All down the ages, the religionists have admonished struggling humanity to have faith in this and that, an utter dogma or creed, but they have failed to tell people how to have faith. They have not stated that faith is a state of mind and that it may be induced by self-suggestion. That's true. How many of you have been to church or you go to somebody who's religious and say, I'm having all these problems, and they say, oh, just have faith. Well, that's great, but how do I have faith? right? In language which any normal human being can understand, we will describe all that is known about the principle through which fate may be developed, where it does not already exist. Have faith in yourself and faith in the infinite. Before we begin, you should be reminded again that faith is the eternal elixir which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. The foregoing sentence is worth reading a second time, and a third and a fourth. It is worth reading aloud. Faith is the Fate is the eternal elixir which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. Faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches. Faith is the basis of all miracles and all mysteries which cannot be analyzed by rules of science. Faith is the only known cure for failure. Take it to month love and appreciate myself break. I love that. A 10-month love and appreciate myself break. I love that. You know, I'm going to start challenges on here. How do you guys feel about if I start challenges in my streams? Like, I think March 1st is coming up, and I think I'd like to start a gratitude challenge in March. What do you guys feel about that? Where, like, the challenge would be for 30 days, you have to come into one of my streams, whether the morning, noon, or evening stream, because I'll start an evening stream too. And you have to come in. Actually, it'll be the evening stream, right? It'll be the evening stream that every day for 30 days, you have to come in, and I'll only be on for an hour because it's really just like more like a check-in, like a coaching check-in. And you got to come in and tell me 3 things you're grateful for that day. I'm going to do it. So I'm giving you guys the notice. That's what I'm going to do starting March 1st, because that's going to help us grow the positivity. Hey, Baba. It's going to help us grow the positivity. And then if we grow the positivity, then it'll help us manifest the things we want to manifest. Faith is the element, the chemical, which when mixed with prayer gives you direct communication with infinite intelligence. Faith is the element which transforms ordinary vibration of thought created by the finite mind into spiritual equivalent. Faith is the only agency through which the cosmic force of infinite intelligence can be harnessed and used by man. Every one of the foregoing statements is capable of proof. So basically what they're saying is, if you want to talk to infinite intelligence, now you might call infinite, yeah, that's cool, Carib, Liz. If you want to talk to infinite intelligence, and that could be God or the angels or source or Mother Nature, whatever you call it. If you want to talk to infinite intelligence, you have to have faith, right? You have to have faith. The proof is simple and easily demonstrated. It is wrapped up in the principle of autosuggestion. Let us center our attention upon the subject of self-suggestion and find out what it is and what it is capable of achieving. It is a well-known fact that one comes finally to believe whatever one repeats to yourself, whether the statement be true or false. If a man repeats a lie over and over, he will eventually accept the lie as truth. Moreover, he will believe it to be the truth. Every man is what he is because of the dominating thoughts which he permits to occupy his mind. Thoughts which a man deliberately places in his own mind and encourages with sympathy, and with which he mixes any one or more of the emotions, constitutes the motivating forces which direct and control his every movement. Ugh. Bama, good morning. We're reading chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich. Okay, Rosé. I'm very proud of you taking your morning walk. I'm going to the gym right after this. Thoughts which are mixed with any of the feelings of emotions constitute a magnetic force which attracts from the vibrations of the ether other similar or related thoughts. You know, a lot of people have told me they're so happy I formed CBG on here, and I really need to start saying I may have formed the group, but it was the magnetic attraction of all of us is how we found each other. I am teaching. We all found each other because we all desired something. And I know what we're desiring is of a higher nature. 777, 777 people in this room. Peace and blessings. So it's of a higher nature. Okay. The ether is a great cosmic mass of eternal force of vibration. It is made up of both destructive vibrations and constructive vibrations. It carries at all times vibrations of fear, poverty, disease, failure, misery, and vibrations of prosperity, health, success, and happiness. From the great storehouse of the ether, the human mind is constantly attracting vibrations which harmonize with that which dominates the human mind. Any thought, idea, plan, or purpose that you hold in your mind attracts from the vibrations of the ether. So do you see how important it is to hold positive thoughts, vibrations, plans? Because we're always sending signals out to the ether being the magnetic forces. So you're going to attract to you where you are. Right now, I'm in a huge state of gratitude and humility and humbleness based off of all that's been happening this week. So now I'm attracting more and more people that want to add to that, right? Now let us go back to the starting point and become informed as to how the original seed of an idea, plan, or purpose may be planted in the mind. The information is easily conveyed. Any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought. This is why you are asked to write out a statement of your major purpose or definite chief aim. Commit it to memory and repeat it in audible words day after day until these vibrations of sound have reached your subconscious mind. Alpax, thank you for the fave. So what is your definite chief aim? Let me ask people in the room that. And if you're on YouTube, what is your definite chief aim? What is your major purpose? I mean, one of my major purposes is to change the way we view mental health in this country. And then another major purpose of mine is creating conscious community. That's a really big major purpose of mine. Philanthropy work, yeah. Do you feel the need to specify that, or do you think you need to keep it general? And I'm just asking because I'm trying to see what you think of that. As a focus, yeah. We are what we are because of the vibrations of thought we pick up and register through stimuli of our daily environment. Do you hear that? Okay. Once you know what you want to do, then that's perfect. Resolve to throw off the influences of any unfortunate environment and to build your own life to order. Taking inventory of mental assets and liabilities, you will discover that your greatest weakness is lack of self-confidence. This handicap can be surmounted and timidity translated into courage through the aid of the principle of autosuggestion. The application of this principle may be made through a simple arrangement of positive thought impulses stated in writing, memorized, and repeated until they become a part of the working equipment of the subconscious faculty of your mind. So here's your self-confidence formula, right? There's 5 steps. First, I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here and now promise to render such action. Jenny, thank you for the fave. So I want everybody to think about something, your major aim, your life purpose, what you think that is, and we're going to run through the self-confidence formula, okay? So everybody focus on your major purpose, your major aim in life. Now, you want to say, I know I have the ability to achieve this. So I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards it. And I promise to do what I can. Now, second, you realize the dominating thought of your mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, concentrate your thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person you intend to become, thereby creating in your mind a clear mental picture. So like for 30 minutes a day, you have to imagine what that person looks like. Like for me, I imagine myself writing books, doing interviews, podcasts, radio, TV, talking about my experience growing up, being diagnosed as manic depressive, bipolar, having anxiety, depression, but really and truly, I'm a sensitive intuitive. So me talking about that, and how about, the mental health system didn't help me. It held me back, because when I took the medication, it dulled all my senses, and I have very strong psychic senses. So I'm going to think about me doing all these interviews talking about that. I want to drag race for a living. Good. So Bubba, you're going to imagine yourself on that track. You're going to imagine yourself winning that trophy, getting sprayed with the champagne. You can imagine yourself making a lot of money. Maybe you want to give some of it back to your community, or in service, or feed children or something, right? So for 30 minutes a day, everybody is supposed to focus on who the person you want to be. Third, know that through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that you persistently hold in your mind will eventually seek expression through some means of attaining the object back of it. Therefore, you will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of yourself the development of self-confidence. 4, clearly write down a description of your definite chief aim in life and never stop trying until you have developed sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. 5, fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. You hear that? No wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, make a promise that you will engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. You will succeed by attracting to yourself the forces you wish to use and the cooperation of other people. You will induce others to serve you because of your willingness to serve others. Oh, that's a big one for me, because I find people wanting to serve me, but I feel like guilty about it. So that one there. Fight for the right thing. Amen. Eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity. Know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring success and cause others to believe in you because you believe in them. I do all these things. That's really interesting to read that. It's like, treat others as you'd like them to be treated yourself. Hey, Kay, good morning. We're just reading chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich, a book on mindset, wealth mindset. And then sign your name to this formula, commit to it to memory, and repeat it aloud once a day with full faith, though it will gradually influence your thoughts and actions so that you will become a self-reliant and successful person. The back of this formula is a law of nature, which no man has yet been able to explain. It has baffled the scientists of all ages. Psychologists have named this law autosuggestion and let it go at that. The name by which one calls this law is of little importance. The important fact about it is it works for the glory and success of all, if it is used constructively. On the other hand, if used destructively, it will destroy just as readily. I mean, I think we do a lot of autosuggestion destructively every day. Every time you look in the mirror, oh, I'm fat. Oh, I don't have money. Oh, I live in the hood. Like when we talk to ourselves like that, that's destructive autosuggestion. Yeah, I believe so. I like it's faith, determination, and fight. All impulses of thought have a tendency to clothe themselves in their physical equivalent. So what that means is, if things are going bad in your life, you're surrounded by crappy people, your job is crappy, your health is crappy. What they're saying is it starts here. Oh, okay. It starts here. So if you're not liking what's happening in your life, you got to start changing here first, and then you'll see the change in your real life. Okay. The subconscious mind, the chemical laboratory in which all thought impulses are combined and made ready for translation into physical reality, makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thought impulses. It works with the material we feed it through our thought impulses. The subconscious mind will translate into reality a thought driven by fear just as readily as it will translate into reality a thought driven by courage or faith. So what they're saying there is the universe doesn't really care whether you have a negative thought or a positive thought. They're just paying attention to the energy of the thought. So if you keep thinking negative things every single day, that is what you're going to keep creating. But if you try to really strive to have compassion or see things with love and light, then you're going to create more of that. The pages of medical history are rich with illustrations of cases of suggestive suicide. A man may commit suicide through negative suggestion, just as effectively as by any other means. In a Midwestern city, a man by the name of Joseph Grant, a bank official, borrowed a large sum of the bank's money without the consent of the director. He lost the money through gambling. One afternoon, the bank examiner came and began to check the accounts. Grant left the bank, took a room in a local hotel, and when they found him 3 days later, he was lying in bed, wailing and moaning, repeating over and over these words, "My God, this will kill me. I cannot stand the disgrace." In a short time, he was dead. The doctors pronounced the case one of mental suicide. That's interesting. Just as electricity will turn the wheels of industry. I know, like, that's actually scary. Yeah, like that, oof, that just gives me chills. Just as electricity will turn the wheels of industry and render useful service if used constructively, or snuff out life if wrongly used, so will the law of autosuggestion lead you to peace and prosperity, or down into the valley of misery, failure, and death, according to your degree of understanding and application of it. If you fill your mind with fear, doubt, and unbelief in your ability to connect with and use the forces of infinite intelligence, the law of autosuggestion will take this spirit of unbelief and use it as a pattern by which your subconscious mind will translate it into its physical equivalent. This statement is as true as the statement that 2 and 2 are 4. Like the wind which carries one ship east and another west, the law of autosuggestion will lift you up or pull you down. So, how many of you are aware of the thoughts that continuously run through your mind on a daily basis? Have you been checking in? You are? Good. Very good. And then when you catch yourself having a negative thought, what do you guys do? If you have a negative thought, what do you do? If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but you think you can't, it is almost certain you won't. You change the mood. That's good. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out of the world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. Or yeah, that's true too, because your environment could be a large part of what you feel and experience. Observe the words which have been emphasized, and you will catch the deep meaning which the poet had in mind. Thank you, Bubba. I appreciate when people like reading and books. Somewhere in your makeup, perhaps in the cells of your brain, there lies sleeping the seed of achievement, which, if aroused and put into action, would carry you to heights such as you may never have hoped to attain. It is known fact that the emotion of love is closely akin to the state of mind known as faith. And this for the reason that love comes very near to translating one's thought impulses into their spiritual equivalent. During his work of research, the author discovered from the analysis of the life work and achievements of hundreds of men of outstanding accomplishments that there was the influence of a woman's love of nearly every one of them. The emotion of love in the human heart and brain creates a favorable field of magnetic attraction, which causes an influx of the higher and finer vibrations which are afloat in the ether. So think about this for a second. How many times have you been in love, like truly in love? And in those early days when everything was perfect, didn't all of life seem perfect? Like your job was good, your health was good, your home was good, right? Locke, I'm reading chapter 3. So what we're learning here is that being in love helps manifest your desires and your dreams. So if you are in love with the right person, and you have to say in love with the right person, because sometimes I think a lot of people mix up infatuation with love. Because a lot of us are infatuated with people, and then we know it wears off because the people break up or they find other people or whatnot. When you're in love with someone, you're just in love with their whole being, their essence, their energy, right? So when you, and it's not even the other person, right? Because I don't want people to think, oh, now I need a girlfriend or a boyfriend to become wealthy. No, it's not. That's not what I'm saying. What the book is saying is you have to feel love. So how you feel love, it could be for a family, it could be for a pet, it could be for a person, like in a dating situation. Right, it's the energy. So if you allow yourself to feel love for people, animals, things on a daily basis, then that love energy is going to help you with your mind to create that draw of wealth to you, is what he's trying to say. If you wish evidence of the power of faith, study the achievements of men and women who have employed it. At the head of the list comes the Nazarene. Christianity is the greatest single force which influences the minds of men. The basis of Christianity is faith. No matter how many people may have perverted or misinterpreted the meaning of this great force, and no matter how many dogmas and creeds have been credited in its name, which do not reflect its tenets, the sum and substance of the teachings and the achievements of Christ were nothing more, nothing less than faith. Some teachers of religion and many who call themselves Christians neither understand nor practice faith. Let us consider the power of faith as it is now being demonstrated by a man who is well known to all of civilization, Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, Locke, thank you. Thank you for the strawberries. Ooh, I'm climbing. Mahatma Gandhi. In this man, the world has known one of the most astounding examples of the possibilities of faith. Mahatma Gandhi wields more potential power than any man living at this time. Remember, this was written when Mahatma Gandhi was alive. And despite the fact that he has none of the orthodox tools of power, such as money, battleships, soldiers, or materials of warfare, Gandhi had none of them. He didn't even have a home, a suit of clothes, but he had the power. How does he come by that power? He created it out of his understanding of the principle of faith. And through his ability to transplant that faith into the minds of 200 million people. Now, the funny thing is, I identify a lot with Mahatma Gandhi because he was a life Pat 9 like me. I'm a life Pat 9. Hey, P. Willie, we're reading chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich. So with Mahatma Gandhi, I identify with that because I keep saying to myself, when I win, I'm not winning for myself. I'm winning for all my fans. I'm winning for people who believe in the work that I'm doing. Right? So he had that faith as well. And my faith is what I'm trying to say is my faith is the people who love me on here, they're going to get me to that million diamonds. They're going to get me higher and higher because they believe in the work that I'm doing. So he had that same faith. And look what he did. Gandhi accomplished through the influence of fate that which the strongest military power on earth could not and never will accomplish through soldiers and military equipment. He accomplished the astounding feat of influencing 200 million minds to coalesce and move in unison as a single mind. Imagine that. All through fate. What other force on earth except fate could do that? There will come a day when employees as well as employers will discover the possibilities of fate. That day is dawning. The whole world has had ample opportunity during the recent business depression to witness what the lack of fate will do to business. During the depression, the world had evidence in abundance that widespread fear will paralyze the wheels of industry and business. Imagine that this book was written in 1937 around the Great Depression, and now we are living in the times of COVID, a pandemic that mirrors all these emotions of the pandemic, of the depression. Isn't that synchronistic? Right? Fear paralyzed the wheels of industry and business. That's what it's doing to us now. Out of this experience will arise leaders in business and industry who will profit by the example which Gandhi set for the world, and they will apply to business the same tactics which he has used in building the greatest following known in the history of the world. These leaders will come from the rank and file of the unknown men who now labor in the steel plants, the coal mines, the automobile factories, and in the small towns of cities of America. It is polio too, and what we are seeing, we're seeing the leaders rise now. Business is due for a reform. Make no mistake about this. The methods of the past, based upon economic combinations of force and fear, will be supplanted by the better principles of faith and cooperation. Ninang, good morning. We're doing a reading from Think and Grow Rich, Chapter 3. Men who labor will receive more than daily wages. They will receive dividends from the business, the same as those who supply the capital for business. But first, they must give more to their employers and stop bickering and bargaining by force at the expense of the public. They must earn the right to dividends. They will be led by leaders who will understand and apply the principles employed by Mahatma Gandhi. Only in this way, many leaders get from their followers the spirit of full cooperation, which constitutes power in its highest and most enduring form. This stupendous machine age in which we live and form, from which we are just emerging, has taken the soul out of men. Isn't that true? The watchword of the future will be human happiness and contentment. It's funny they're talking about this in 1937. The watchword of the future will be human happiness and contentment. And when this state of mind shall have been attained, the production will take care of itself more effectively than anything that has ever been accomplished, where men did not and could not mix faith and individual interest with their labor. Okay, so you have a story here. The huge United States Steel Corporation was born in the mind of Charles Schwab in the form of an idea he created through his imagination. Second, he mixed faith with his idea. Then he formulated a plan for the transformation of his idea into physical and financial reality. Fourth, he put his plan into action with his famous speech at the University Club. Fifth, he applied and followed through on his plan with persistence and backed it with firm decision until it had been fully carried out. Sixth, he prepared the way for success by a burning desire for success. If you are one of those who have often wondered how great fortunes are accumulated, this story of the creation of the United States Steel Corporation will be enlightening. Oh, Nina, thank you for the gifts. I'm getting to 1 million, hun. I'm getting to 1 million, so thank you. All my gifts are counting. Right? So here's the story. This astounding description of the power of any idea was dramatically told by John Lowell in the New York World Telegram, with whose courtesy it is now reprinted. Black China, good morning. Thank you for the heart-shaped roses. I am nearly at 1 million diamonds, so I appreciate everybody who's helping me. Thank you, Ninang. I'm hoping to get it before Sunday, before the end of February. Black China, I'm reading Chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich. All right, so here's the speech that Charles Schwab made that rocked the world at that time. When on the evening of December 12, 1900, some 80 of the nation's financial nobility gathered in the banquet hall of the University Club on Fifth Avenue to do honor to a young man from out of the West, not half a dozen of the guests realized they were to witness the most significant episode in American industrial history. J. Edward Simmons and Charles Stuart Smith, their hearts full of gratitude for the lavish hospitality bestowed on them by Charles Schwab during a recent visit to Pittsburgh, had arranged the dinner to introduce the 38-year-old steel man to Eastern banking society. But they didn't expect him to stampede the convention. Rosa, you know about Charles Schwab because there's a big building in New York, if I remember, in Manhattan, right? Or like, is it insurance with Charles Schwab? I always hear about Charles Schwab in New York. I forgot what it was though. Insurance, yeah. So he's one of the big, like makers of America, if you will, with the Steel Corporation. That's how he started. So these two men invited Charles Schwab to New York and threw a banquet for him to thank him for all the work that he's doing. Hey, doing it. We're reading chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich. So we're talking about a story about Charles Schwab. So he was supposed to give a speech, right? Thank you for the roses. I appreciate it. I'm on my climb to 1,000,000 diamonds. So thank you. They arranged a dinner to introduce a 38-year-old steel man. Now note his age. He came into his millions at 38, right? So a lot of times, a lot of us feel like we're not coming into our millions, we're not coming into our wealth. We probably are not even old enough yet. There's a lot of people like Steve Jobs really got the riches of Apple in his 50s. So if you're in your 30s and you haven't really hit your wealth, it may not be your time yet. Okay? So just hang in there about that. There can only be one. Good morning. We're reading chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich. You're 43. I'm 43 too. So I know I'm still in my stride. Okay, Rosa, you're going to go? Okay. You going to stay? So they invited him for dinner and to do a speech, but they didn't expect Charles Schwab to stampede the convention. They warned him, in fact, that the bosoms within New York stuffed shirts would not be responsive to oratory, and that if he didn't want to bore the Stillmans and Harrimans and Vanderbilts, he better limit himself to 15 or 20 minutes of polite vaporings and let it go at that. Even John P. Morgan, sitting on the right hand of Schwab, as became his imperial indignity, intended to grace the banquet table with his presence only briefly. And so far as the press and public were concerned, the whole affair was of little moment that no mention of it found its way into print the next day. So nobody was expecting this dinner to be great. Nobody was expecting what happened to happen. All right. I'm curious about this speech. Are you guys curious about this speech? So the two hosts and their distinguished guests ate their way through the usual 7 or 8 courses. There was little conversation, and if there was any, it was restrained. Few of the bankers and brokers met Schwab, whose career had flowered among the banks of the Monongahela, and none knew him well. But before the evening was over, and with them Money Master Morgan, because that's J.P. Morgan they're talking about there, they were to be swept off their feet, and $1 billion baby, the United States Steel Corporation, was to be conceived. So this, okay, here's the story. Charles Schwab, 38 years old, meeting all these big players, JP Morgan, all these people. And he has to pitch a speech to get their help. And by the end of the speech, he gets their help to create the United States Steel Corporation. It is perhaps unfortunate for the sake of history that no record of Charles Schwab's speech was ever made. He repeated some parts of it at a later date during a similar meeting at Chicago bankers. And still later, when the government brought suit to dissolve the Steel Trust, he gave his own version from the witness stand of the remarks that stimulated Morgan into a frenzy of financial activity. It is probable, however, that it was a homely speech, somewhat ungrammatical, for the niceties of language never bothered Schwab, full of epigram and threaded with wit. But aside from that, it had a force and effect upon 5 billions of estimated capital that was represented by the diners. After it was over and the gathering was still under its spell, although Schwab had talked for 90 minutes, J.P. Morgan led the orator to a recessed window where, dangling their legs from the high, uncomfortable seat, they talked for another hour. The magic of the Schwab personality had been turned on full force, but what was more important and lasting was the clear-cut program he laid down for the steel. Many other men had tried to interest J.P. Morgan in slapping together a steel trust after the pattern of the biscuit, wire and hoop, sugar, rubber, whiskey, oil, or chewing gum combinations. John Gates, the gambler, had urged it, but Morgan distrusted him. The Moore boys, Bill and Jim, Chicago stock jobbers who had glued together a matched trust and a cracker corporation, had urged it and failed. So a lot of people have been trying to come after JP Morgan for his money. He didn't give it, but he gave it to Charles Schwab, a nobody from Pittsburgh. The financial magnetism that began a generation ago to attract thousands of small and sometimes inefficiently managed companies into large and competition-crushing combinations had become operative in the steel world through the devices of that jovial business pirate, John Gates. John Gates had already formed the American Steel and Wire Company out of a chain of small concerns, and together with Morgan created the Federal Steel Company. The National Tube and American Bridge companies were two more Morgan concerns, and the Moore brothers had forsaken the match and the cookie business to form the American Group, Tin Plate, Steel Hoop, Sheet Steel, and the National Steel Company. But by the side of Andrew Carnegie's gigantic vertical trust, a trust owned and operated by 53 partners, they might combine to their heart's content, but the whole lot of them couldn't make a dent in the Carnegie organization, and Morgan knew it. The eccentric old Scot knew it too. From the magnificent heights of Skibo Castle, he had viewed first with amusement and then with resentment the attempts of Morgan's small companies to cut into his business. When the attempts became too bold, Carnegie's temper was translated into anger and retaliation. Did y'all know it was this cutthroat happening back then? He decided to duplicate every mill owned by his rivals. He hadn't been interested in wire, pipe, hoops, or sheet. Instead, he was content to sell such companies the raw steel and let them work it. Now, with Schwab as his chief and able lieutenant, he planned to drive his enemies to the wall. So it was that in the speech of Charles Schwab, Morgan saw the answer to his problem of combination. A trust without Carnegie, giant of them all, would be no trust at all. A plum pudding, as one writer said, without the plums. Yes, it was built exactly. This is the boom of the iron industry in the country, right? Schwab's speech on the night of December 12, 1900, undoubtedly, you know what's crazy? I think my first stream was 12/12. Would undoubtedly carry the inference through not the pledge that the vast Carnegie enterprise could be brought under the Morgan tent. He talked of the world future for steel, of reorganization for efficiency, of specialization, of scrapping of unsuccessful mills, and concentration of effort on the flourishing ones. More than that, he told the buccaneers among them wherein lay the errors of their customary piracy. Their purposes, he inferred, had been to create monopolies, raise prices, and pay themselves fat dividends out of privilege. Schwab condemned the system in his heartiest manner. The short-sightedness of such a policy, he told his listeners, lay in the fact that it restricted the market in an era when everything cried for expansion. By cheapening the cost of steel, he argued, an ever-expanding market would be created. More uses for steel would be devised, and a goodly proportion of the world trade could be captured. Bouncer, good morning. We're reading chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich. Welcome to the room, and thank you for any gifts. I'm climbing up to 1 million diamonds. Actually, though he did not know it, Schwab was an apostle of modern mass production. So the dinner at the University Club came to an end. Morgan went home to think about Schwab's rosy predictions. Schwab went back to Pittsburgh to run the steel business for wee Andra Carnegie, while Gary and the rest went back to their stock tickers to fill around in anticipation of the next move. It was not long coming. It took Morgan about 1 week to digest the feast of reason Schwab had placed before him. He sent for Schwab and found that the young man, rather coy, Mr. Carnegie, might not like it if he found his trusted company president had been flirting with the Emperor of Wall Street, the street upon which Carnegie was resolved never to tread. Then it was suggested by John Gates, the go-between, that if Schwab happened to be in the Bellevue Hotel in Philadelphia, JP Morgan might also happen to be there. When Schwab arrived, however, Morgan was inconveniently ill at his New York home. And so, on the elder man's pressing invitation, Schwab went to New York and presented himself at the door of the library of the financier. Now, certain economic historians have professed the belief that from the beginning to the end of the drama, the stage was set by Andrew Carnegie. The dinner to Schwab, the famous speech, the Sunday night conference, everything was arranged by the Scot. The truth is the opposite. When Schwab was called in to consummate the deal, he didn't even know whether the little boss, as Andrew was called, would so much as listen to an order to sell, particularly to a group of men whom Andrew regarded as being endowed with something less than holiness. But Schwab did take into the conference with him in his own handwriting 6 sheets of copperplate figures representing to his mind the physical worth and potential earning capacity of every steel company he regarded as an essential star in the new metal firmament. 4 men pondered over these figures all night. Thank you for the roses, Bouncer. I appreciate you. 4 men pondered over these figures all night. The chief, of course, was J.P. Morgan, steadfast in his belief in the divine right of money. With him was his aristocratic partner, Robert Bacon, a scholar and a gentleman. The third was John Gates, whom Morgan scorned as a gambler and used as a tool. The fourth was Schwab, who knew more about the process of making and selling steel than any of the whole group of men. When dawn came, Morgan rose and straightened his back. Only one question remained. Do you think you can persuade Andrew Carnegie to sell? He asked. I can try, said Schwab. If you can get him to sell, I will undertake the matter, said Morgan. So far, so good, but would Carnegie sell? How much would he demand? Schwab thought about $3.2 million. What would he take payment in? Common or preferred stocks, bonds, cash? Nobody could raise $1/3 billion in cash. There was a golf game in January on the frost-cracking heath of the St. Andrews Links in Westchester, with Andrew Carnegie bundled up in sweaters against the cold, and Charlie talking loudly, as usual, to keep his spirits up. But no word of business was mentioned until the pair sat down in the cozy warmth of the Carnegie cottage. Then, with the same persuasiveness that had hypnotized 80 millionaires of the University Club, Schwab poured out the glittering promises of retirement and comfort, of untold millions to satisfy the old man's social caprices. Carnegie capitulated, wrote a figure on a slip of paper, handed it to Schwab, and said, all right, that's what we'll sell for. Panther, thank you for the heart eyes. Thank you for the fave, Bouncer, and the hat. The figure was approximately $400 million and was reached by taking the $320 million mentioned by Schwab as a basic figure and adding to it $80 million to represent the increased capital over the previous 2 years. Later, on the deck of a transatlantic liner, the Scotsman said ruefully to J.P. Morgan, I wish I had asked you for 1 million more, 100 million more. If you'd asked for it, you'd have gotten it, Morgan told him cheerfully. This is amazing. This is history, guys. There was an uproar, of course. A British correspondent cabled that the foreign steel world was appalled by the gigantic combination. President Hadley of Yale declared that unless trusts were regulated, the country might expect an emperor in Washington within the next 25 years. But that able stock manipulator Keene went at his work of showing the new stock at the public so vigorously that all the excess water, estimated by some at nearly 600 million, was absorbed in a twinkling. So Carnegie had his millions, and J.P. Morgan's syndicate had $62 million for all its trouble, and all the boys from Gates to Gary had their millions. Okay, Liz. The 38-year-old Schwab had his reward. He was made president of the new corporation and remained in control until 1903. The dramatic story of big business, which you have just finished, was included in this book because it is a perfect illustration of the methods by which desire can be transmuted into its physical equivalent. I imagine some readers will question the statement that a mere intangible desire can be converted into physical. Doubtless, some will say you cannot convert nothing into something. The answer is in the story of the United States Steel. That giant organization was created in the mind of one man. The plan by which the organization was provided with the steel mills that gave its financial stability was created in the mind of the same man. His fate, his desire, his imagination, his persistence were the real ingredients that went into the U.S. Steel Company. The steel mills and mechanical equipment acquired by the corporation after it had been brought into legal existence were incidental, but careful analysis will disclose the fact that the appraised value of the properties acquired increased in value by an estimated $600 million. In other words, Charles Schwab's idea, plus the faith with which he conveyed it to the minds of J.P. Morgan and others, was marketed for a profit of approximately $600 million. That came off of an idea. Ooh, I'll be there too, Panther. What happened to some of the men who took their share of the millions of dollars of profit made by this transaction is a matter of which we are not now concerned. The important feature is the astounding achievement is that it serves as unquestionable evidence of the soundness of the philosophy described in this book. The amount is limited only by the person in whose mind the thought is put into motion. Faith removes limitations. This is the last paragraph, guys. Remember this when you are ready to bargain with life for whatever it is that you ask as your price for having passed this way. Remember also that the man who created the United States Steel Corporation was practically unknown at the time. He was merely Andrew Carnegie, Man Friday, until he gave birth to his famous idea. After that, he quickly rose to a position of power, fame, and riches. The end. What is your takeaway from the chapter? YouTube, thank you for joining me for another reading on my live stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to your comments and see you for chapter 4 tomorrow. That's